Hey everyone, welcome back to Rewind, sponsored by Affinity Streaming Podcast. I am Contrell, joined as always by Charlie. How are you, Charlie?
Hey, how's it going?
Great. And today we have two very special guests. First off, Frank is here, and also Riley. You may have seen her before on some of our other podcasts. But the more important guest, Frank, is here. So, Frank, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you
And
for having me. I appreciate the
any,
opportunity.
anytime. And today's movie is recommended by Frank. It is called Meet Joe Black from 1998, rated PG-13, runtime of 2 hours 58 minutes. Oh my goodness! Um, in case you didn't know, we will be spoiling this movie, so if you haven't seen it, spoilers are ahead. All right. But first, I'd like to please ask you guys to follow us on our socials. They are YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We are at Affinity Streaming Podcast. I'm sure you have an Instagram, right, Frank, that you follow us on?
I do not do many social media platforms.
We forgive you because you provided us with one of our great co-hosts here. All right. Meet Joe Black, directed by Martin Brest. I hope I'm saying it right. For Universal, starring Brad Pitt. It had a 46% critics and an 81% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. A 6.3 on Film Affinity. Released in the U.S. on November 13th, 1988. So, Frank, tell us your first memory of this movie, when you think you first saw it, and what stuck out for you.
You know, it was one of those movies that I thought kind of a drama. The idea behind it intrigued me a little bit, but I didn't know if I was into a drama at the time. I think my wife probably dragged me to either see it in the theater or maybe we bought the DVD. But what stood out to me the most when I did see it is I really like movies or television shows or books, whatever medium it comes in, that take my mind places it doesn't go by itself. You know, and that's one of the reasons I'm a big Star Trek fan. But the this movie took me to a place that I was like, wow, death as a person, as somebody walking the streets among us. Never really thought of that as a concept. So and then the movie I think was so well done, and while it was a little bit of a drama, there was a lot of comedy in it as well, and I really enjoyed it, and it became one of my favorite movies over time.
What about you, Riley?
Well, I feel like I saw this movie at some point or like a clip of it in the past because I thought I saw it, but when I rewatched it for this, I was like, there is definitely a lot of this I had not seen. So when I was watching it, I thought overall it's a very good movie, but there's points that were slow and I didn't think it needed to be 3 hours long. I thought that was a little excessive. But yeah, as my dad said, like the concept was really cool. It was interesting, and I didn't know exactly how it was gonna end and resolve because it was like death liked being part of the world, and I don't think wanted to go back. And okay, where's it gonna go from there? So it was interesting to see. And my favorite part of the whole movie is how obsessed Death was with peanut butter.
Charlie, was this the first watch for you, a rewatch?
Yeah, that was the first time I seen it. I hadn't even heard about it, so
What?
Oh, wow.
completely
Wow,
new.
interesting.
Yeah. Did you see it, Control?
This was the second watch for me.
Oh yeah.
And I'm watching it, and my wife in the background is like complaining that she didn't think Brad Pitt was that handsome, and I was like, "You're out of your mind."
Like in general, or just
Yeah,
in
like
this movie?
in this movie.
Doesn't he look the same as normal? Like I don't understand. He's like
Sure.
younger,
Yeah, he's
right?
younger with that the hair.
He looks more like a kid, I guess.
Yeah, he looked way younger, but
Yeah.
so it's loosely based on a 1930 film called Death Takes a Holiday.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
that.
so let's just go through this a little bit. So it's focused around Bill Parrish, played by Anthony Hopkins, who I thought was super amazing in this movie. I mean, he's just like an actor that can't be messed with. He was great. And I guess Death, played by Brad Pitt, comes for him. But before we get to all that, the daughter, played by Claire Forlani, meets Brad Pitt in a coffee shop, and she takes off, and he gets killed, and death takes over his body.
Yeah, when he gets killed, I think you mentioned before, but that I thought that's kind of funny.
That was a comical scene.
Yeah.
He got hit by the car and then ricocheted off another car.
Yeah.
But why was he standing in the street? Like,
Because he was in love, I guess. Also, I guess it's implied that Death sent the other car at him because it made it sound like he wasn't supposed to die, and Death was like, I need this guy.
Oh, really? I didn't get. Did you get that?
I
That
thought
was what was
so.
implied. Yeah.
Death was like, I needed a body.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at some
it
point
sounds like-
he's like, I needed that body, so he and it was interesting how she turned the corner and walked away the moment before he was hit, so she had no idea what would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I didn't even consider that he caused the accident.
Yeah. So the first one was supposed to miss him, and then he's like, nah, I need this one.
Interesting. But I guess he was like, yeah, look at this moron standing in the middle of the street
Yeah.
in New York.
Yeah, he's like, he got off easy. Let me just fix this.
He deserves to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting that I heard her name was Susan, right? Claire Forlani.
Is it Susan? I forgot
Is
already.
it Susan?
Yeah.
Susan Parrish, the younger daughter.
Yeah.
She was. I felt like Parrish is like uber rich, and then she was like, I just take a cab to work, and then she's like sitting in this diner. It just seemed out of place.
I guess that's just the life she wants to.
She wants to be simpler. She doesn't.
Yeah.
have to
She's
drive
not like her older sister's one interested in all the bullshit. I guess throwing parties, and I don't know. I guess she doesn't care at all either.
You know, what I got out of that is I thought for the amount of wealth they appeared to have in this movie, they were very humble people. And I could understand the father being that way because it's, it implies someplace in there he says, he built up from nothing, he built this empire. But the two girls would have been raised with that wealth. And so either the dad was a really, good parent at keeping them humble, or I don't know. That was one part of the movie I thought, boy, you don't find many very wealthy, privileged people that are quite this humble.
That's true. They were humble, but I guess they were both married to like execs dating execs in his department.
Yeah.
So they weren't dating like a farmer or anything.
Well, like lots of people in New York City don't really date farmers.
Yeah.
Where's all the New York farmers?
At the farmers market.
Yeah.
So in this realm of the older daughter, Allison, played by Marcia Gay Harden, she kept calling him daddy, and that just really bothered me. Like,
Well, didn't they both, or no?
I feel like the older sister did more.
Oh,
But
well,
Claire Forlani did it too.
yeah, but
But I'm
well, they both were like kissing on the lips, and I don't know,
Yeah.
that feels weird to me.
Yeah.
Everyone was kissing each other on the lips, and why? I was like,
There was a
What
lot
is
of
I know
happening?
people do that, but is that very common
there was
anywhere?
a
Like,
lot of
where is
mouth
that
kissing.
common?
As a person who has $2, I do not kiss them on the mouth.
Yeah.
They do not call me daddy. So I
Yeah.
don't know how it is for you, Frank, but
I'm in the same boat. I don't know if Riley called me daddy when she was a tiny girl. No.
it's like dad or pops or even Trell. Like never.
I think
And
Riley
it's
always
like-
called me dad, and,
Yeah.
and my
40
son
years
calls
old.
me father.
Yeah, there you go. She's like 40 years old. Like, Daddy, what do you want for your party? And I'm just like, what the?
Was weird.
And the mouth kissing did bother me. All right, so Death finally shows his face, and he's hanging around with Bill, and Bill's hearing voices, and Death gives him a couple of days. Says, wait, show me the world. I give you a couple of days to hang around. One thing I found confusing is how the Death didn't know how anything worked. Like,
Oh, it was
I guess
so
he had never been
funny.
in a body. Did that bother you at all?
I enjoyed
doesn't
it.
bother me. I guess it doesn't bother me until the end when suddenly he knows a lot of detail about the IRS. Like that. That's where it's just like, oh, so he does know things, or
Yeah,
he doesn't know how to use a spoon, but he knows about the IRS.
IRS, yeah. That
And
was awesome.
I will say, when I first watched the movie, that did bother me. But after some thought,
Man.
I thought to myself, if Death is very busy doing his job and that's all he does, he might not be concerned with all the little tiny affairs of using a spoon
Yeah.
or anything. So I thought it was interesting because he's all powerful and yet very naive to the ways of the world, which I thought made his character very interesting. And my assumption was he must have researched somehow the IRS to be able to pull that off. Or maybe he's just all knowing and he just doesn't care to know.
Or when the guy mentioned death and taxes, maybe that made him study taxes
exactly
to figure out what it was, and that was.
It's like, why are we so similar?
Great point, Frank. Thanks. Great point. All right, so Brad Pitt is falling in love with Allison, hanging out with the family. But another thing, and so he ends up kind of stalking her, going to see her at work.
Yeah, exactly. How does that make you fall in love with a person when you have a good conversation and then they come back to you looking like they're brain dead?
Yeah, they come find you.
It's a little weird, right? I don't. It's a little strange. It's just like she's like falling in love with a different person who's acting like a child now. It's like
she was intrigued by him and his mystery.
He was a mystery.
That's how hot he was. He looked good, and so she willing to let it slide.
Yeah, so there you go. He looked good, and he was mysterious. So, so
I don't know, because that part was a little strange to me. Like how she should have been way more like creeped out. Like, oh, this guy I met once is at my house now.
Yeah,
and acting really weird and like watching me swim.
Yeah.
And,
I don't know. I maybe it would have been better if they had some kind of scene where he's acts a little more normal later. I don't know. He's always a little weird.
He's weird. Yeah, he does.
I feel like she was like weirded out by him at first, like in that environment. She's like, you're now like being completely different to me than you were in the coffee shop. So I feel like she was weirded out, but then I think the mystery just grew on her.
Great.
Grew into romance.
Yeah.
I'll say.
So are you attracted? So are you guys attracted to just absolute mystery? Just very mysterious. Doesn't matter how weird they are. You're just, I don't know. It's mystery.
I mean,
there's some intrigue when you meet somebody that just seems so distant and removed from your conversation. Like, what is this person? What are they all about? And I am the kind of person I want to find out a little bit more. And so when I meet a very friendly person, I'm like, we get along. That's great. But when I meet somebody that has a little distance, it's almost like it's my personal goal to break through the shell and find out what's in there. And so, and I've done that multiple times over my life. So I do relate to her maybe appeal to what's going on here. What is this?
Mm-hmm. Right. They play hard to get and elusive, and you want to go after them more. That's how it works. So Joe Black is hanging around Bill and the daughter. So he shows up at the hospital, and this is the one scene that got a laugh out of me. His island Jamaican accent.
What is that?
Obia. Be evil and not evil, man.
Why? I was like, did he really just do that? Like, what? Why?
I feel like if it had been French or Spanish or something, just it would have hit a little bit better.
Yeah, I think it would have been much better if it was actually another language and not. Yeah.
Yeah. Frank, go ahead and explain this one away. Go ahead.
What I think. No matter what language it is, I think the idea was to show that he is all around the world, and he speaks to people and communicates with them in a way they understand. But I enjoyed that scene immensely. What I did think was weird is how the old woman went from scared to please take me, like I don't want to see you, but okay, well go ahead and take me. I thought those flip-flops she had was very quick and drastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I liked it conceptually. That's like death isn't always a bad thing. Like, like she was in pain. She knew she wasn't gonna just get better, so she's like, all right. I mean,
good point. And
before we go too much farther, I wanted to back up just a little bit because the scene where Brad Pitt, where Joe Black comes into the scene and he meets the father, and the father's meeting him as Death. This is who Death is, and has no idea this is somebody else's body that his daughter met, and they're at the dinner table, and Claire walks in, or the character Susan walks in, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And the father's like, "You know each other?" Like that. That was my biggest laugh out of the whole movie, was like their reaction, like, how do you know this guy? And then the father's concern, like, this is Death and you know him? Like, I think the father thinks he's the only person that's ever met this guy, and the daughter walks in already knowing who he is. So I got a really good laugh out of that scene. I wanted to bring that up.
That's true.
Yeah, I felt like also in that scene, she came in and she kissed her, like, her friend or boyfriend or whatever that guy was.
Mm-hmm.
That was her boyfriend.
That was her boyfriend, yeah. But then she was all like, she was mad at, like, Joe for being distant from her. Like, I just saw you, like, kiss this dude, and now you're wondering why I'm distant? Like,
yeah.
Obviously, she was just... Anyway.
Well, they were kissing everyone, so I wasn't 100% sure it was her boyfriend.
Well, they said...
They did
said,
after.
Oh, my boyfriend is... No, it was before, when he landed on the helicopter or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, my boyfriend is here. Oh, he's coming. Oh, here he is. Oh, now he's gone because he doesn't love me.
All right, let's just talk about Claire Forlani for a second. I have mixed feelings on her performance. Like, I don't know.
Really like
Someone talk to me. You didn't.
I don't really like her performance.
Okay.
It's just it's not her performance. It's her character. It's just written so passively. She doesn't do much. She's just there to fall in love with Joe.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't like go. She doesn't try and figure out who he is. She's just like, okay.
She does a lot of blinking and.
Yeah, I guess the only action she does take is she breaks up with Drew, and I think that's the only thing she does in the whole movie that she does, other than just kind of go around and.
Did she break up with him? She kind of like chased him when he was trying to leave.
Well, I thought that was a breakup.
Yeah, but it's not like she broke up with him.
He didn't break up with her.
He walked out though, right? Help us out.
After she told him it wasn't working or something, right? I mean, we just watched it, didn't we?
What did you think of Claire's performance, Riley?
I thought it was okay. She was definitely like one of my least favorite like actresses in the movie. I think it was because like it didn't make sense to me, her being a doctor and being so passive. Like, I mean, yes, obviously that can happen, but I feel like you're in a position of like power and decision making and you're doing lots of things. Like, I just felt like she would have a bit more assertive of a personality, a bit more like it felt like it didn't match to me, especially like knowing she was a doctor. If she just like lived at home and was like raised off like her dad's money and stuff, then I could maybe understand it a bit more. But I was like, this doesn't make sense with how like independent she seems. It was off to me.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I think especially in the scene where the father yells at her and tells her to stay away from Joe Black, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Daddy. I love you too." I thought, if those are the words of somebody,
go to hell, I'll love who I want.
She should have been cowering and looking down for the words coming out of her mouth, but she was sitting up as though she was a strong individual saying cowering words. So I thought sometimes those things didn't match.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm one who I'm not going to blame her as an actress. I'm going to blame the director, because I'm sure they're taking cues. But I thought she did a fairly decent job. I didn't dislike her as a character. I think she played the role she was given well.
Yeah.
I had trouble hearing her at times. I felt like she was whispering a lot too.
Yeah, yeah. But that's, I don't know, that's like how they wanted it. Like, I guess they wanted her very like romantic, sad kind of, and so I don't know. It's just a lot of the oh, Joe, hello.
I had issues with the volume in this movie. There's so many. I was like, I can't hear anything. Yeah.
And so I was like, I can't hear what they're saying. Like,
I had to turn the subtitles on at one point, and the music was like so loud. Like,
yes.
The voices. Yes. It was weird. Anyway, I want to ask about cold lamb sandwiches. Has anyone ever had a cold lamb sandwich?
No one's turned me on to those yet. So
Okay.
I have had cold lamb, but never on a sandwich, and I think it is tasty, but I like lamb.
Okay.
I almost never have had lamb. I've only had it like a few times. So I don't.
I mean, lamb is delicious. I assume on a sandwich it would also be
Can
delicious.
you can you get cuts of lamb like you can with like ham at the store? Like, can you just get like a pack of Here's my lamb. Let me put it on my sandwich.
Not where I live, you can't.
No, so
That's-
when you're rich, you have lamb for dinner, and then your leftovers you take to your office. And
You don't. No, it's not
Cold
leftovers. He
lamb
probably
sandwich.
he probably
It
has the
to be
lamb
leftovers,
specifically
right?
cooked. He probably has the
Yeah,
lamb
lamb.
specifically cooked so it can get cold.
And he can make a sandwich with
Yeah,
cilantro out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
you
So
do leftovers.
Joe goes in and he's already like he's got the girl all wrapped around his finger. What is I can't remember her name. Susan. He's got Susan all enamored to the point where she just has sex with him by the pool.
That was a long sex scene.
It was weird.
It was long sex
I think it was like 2 minutes or something.
And Brad Pitt's sex face was making me laugh too.
Also, I found it kind of funny that it's like this guy like doesn't know how to do anything, and the first time he even kissed her, he was like really awkward with his mouth about it. Like he didn't know what to do. I mean, he figured it out, but he didn't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, now you're just fine. Like now you know what to do. Okay.
Well, it was only like 2 minutes, so.
Yeah. I think it was less than 2 minutes. Claire Forlani, she's really thin too. I thought I sort of noticed a couple times. She's like really thin. Anyway, yeah, and also the message of like the dad was like, only thing I want for you is to like fall in love or something. I'm just like, she's a doctor and you want her to like fall in love. I just felt that was a
Yeah, well, I think that kind of comes with like they don't really like the movie doesn't respect her or her profession because she's just kind of like, oh, she's just doing a doctor just for fun, I guess. Oh, she doesn't actually feel like a doctor. It's just like a thing that she's doing. I don't know.
And see, I looked at it kind of from the opposite side, Charlie. I thought of it as a father, I would say, well, my daughter has made this wonderful career and she's got that part of her life down, but this is the other thing I want for her. So I kind of looked at it from that angle, like everything else she has in line for herself, but she hasn't figured this part out. So that's what I need to talk to her about.
Man,
Frank.
well, he should have said that.
All right, so we're moving on to Joe's birthday party. I guess we should mention that the boyfriend is trying to take the company from Bill also.
Oh yeah, he's awful.
Yeah, he's awful. We have to deal with that. And I didn't realize that the boyfriend and Claire are all English actors also. So it was like they did a great job of hiding their accents there. What else? So the birthday party's coming. Bill tells Joe to leave his daughter alone. And Joe's kind of a tough guy, like, I do what I want, Bill. Which was kind of out of character, I felt like at times. He was just flipping back and forth from like 12-year-old to like tough guy death. All right, so at the party comes. They do the whole IRS agent thing.
That was funny.
Trick the guy. Yeah, that was pretty cool. He folded pretty easy though.
Yeah, he folded really easy.
Yeah.
Like immediately. Like, oh, IRS. Oh, shit. Sorry. You got me. I'm a criminal. Oh, you that's it? You just let me. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that didn't seem to have any legal weight behind it. Just
yeah, no.
I guess if the whole board heard it, they could be like, well, he resigned.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. He should have just been like, oh, okay, you can contact my lawyer if that's what you think.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird that the boyfriend trying to think of a company, I can't think of his name. I think if I were that man with the ruthlessness that he had, I would never have come. If Quince had called and said, hey, he wants to see you one last time. Yeah. I don't care what he wants to see me for. I just slaughtered that man. I had no need to go see there. So I thought it was interesting that, and I guess, to make the movie, that's what has to happen. But in real life, I would have never gone to see him.
I was thinking maybe he was coming back for Susan, maybe trying to patch
No.
that up.
He didn't even like mention like if he got off the plane and was like, "Oh, is Susan or anything?" No, he was just like, "Oh, the guy wants to see me." Oh,
Yeah.
His name was Drew, played by Jake Weaver.
Drew, thank you.
that's real.
Throw him in
That was
there.
Dan.
Throw him in there. All right, so they take care of Drew. Bill makes peace with his daughter, who's trying hard to please him, the older one.
Yeah.
He dances with
Susan.
Susan. Why can't I remember that? Susan. I keep wanting to say Claire Forlani. He dances.
I think Claire's a better name for that character anyway.
than
right?
Susan. Yeah.
Yeah, Susan seems like such a basic name. Claire seems more like the, I don't know.
Yeah, and it seems like, I guess I was a little confused, but I guess he touched Susan and she figured out he was deaf somehow. Like,
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
I was confused, like with the ending of the movie. I was like, she like clearly knows that like he like death just took her dad. Her dad is dead. Like that was not
so does
explained
Brad Pitt.
well.
He knows too, sort of, because he doesn't seem confused at why he's at this party when the last thing he knew he was on the street getting hit by a car.
Yeah.
a little
That
bit
I
confused.
think could have been done better. But the part about Susan figuring out he's deaf, I think it's interesting when they're dancing and at one point, I don't know, he asks her something, you know, do you know who I am? And she looks at him with this, like, you can tell in her eyes, she's like, I really don't know. And she just wants to hold on to the idea, you're just Joe. And she's like, you're Joe, you're just Joe. And so I think that's when he realizes, Death realizes that she doesn't really know, but she kind of knows there's something wrong here, that I'm not really the right person. That's what I got out of that scene. Like she was trying to hold on to something that wasn't real, and he understood that.
Yeah. Because then he didn't want to take her anymore after that, which I thought was good. It was just the very end when he was back to being the other guy that got hit by the car that I was just like,
Well,
this is weird. Yeah, he has no name.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay,
Even
he
in
has
the credits.
I
he was
looked it up, and he's just like on the like Google thing. It's just like listed as like young man.
Yeah,
The
because he has
credits,
no
like
name.
young man in the coffee shop or
Also,
something.
the young man Joe. in
So,
the
but
coffee
so like they shouldn't be in love because they don't know each other. He's a different that's the whole thing that like the ending kind of just breaks the movie for me a bit because it's just like everything they just didn't know how to end it. So it's like, oh well, the IRS solves that business thing, okay, and he's just back and they're in love even though they don't know each other. They're in love. Fine,
Just
go
from
away.
the coffee shop scene.
Yeah, so
Well, but they acted like they knew each other, like they fell in love through the movie, but they didn't fall in love. But we're good now. The movie's over. Go home.
yeah, I guess. Yeah, when he comes, I wasn't expecting him, even though I'd seen the movie before. I didn't remember. I wasn't expecting the regular guy to come back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And she didn't seem concerned at all about where her father was.
I
or
know.
where his body was.
Well, that's because at that point she's supposed to know, I guess, and be.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gone now.
Yeah, but when you go back to the house and you're just like, hey, where's Dad?
Oh, he crossed the bridge into
he crossed the
death.
bridge. He's
And when she says to him, I wish you could have known my father, that's when you're like, oh, she knows. How did
she
how did
knows.
she figure that out? But she knows.
Yeah. Yeah, she knows, but she also knows she didn't fall in love with this guy actually. So, but she is still in love.
But she can relearn now because
I think she likes
Well,
the
it would've been-
idea. Like the idea of him,
Well,
she
it would've-
likes.
Well, it would have been, but she doesn't have any idea. I don't know. It would have been better if there was a scene where it's like, oh, well, now we have a chance to know each other or something. Now let's start over. I don't know, something like that.
Especially
And then also, I was
if it came from
thinking
him.
of the last 5 minutes after right after the movie ends, where there's like a massive search for this guy the CEO who just disappeared, after taking his company back. You know?
Yeah, now who runs the company? I guess.
Well, the company probably gets dissolved and they probably get sold off like in the next
Sold
few
off,
weeks.
Yeah. Well, guys, what did you overall? Do you recommend this movie? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you think? We know Charlie probably hated it, but go ahead, tell us what you think.
It was all right. I don't know. It was overly long, I thought. I think you could tell this story in like, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've seen like 30-minute episodes of shows that do the same kind of story. But like you can make it with like good, it's kind of sit with the characters for like, I don't know, 2 hours. 3 is very long, I thought, but I don't know, it was fine.
I thought it was long, but I did like sometimes where it played scenes out instead of leaving it to your imagination to figure out what happened, which you can always do in a shorter version of things. But I enjoyed the. I didn't feel like it was 3 hours by the time I was done with it. The beginning was a little, the setup was slow, establishing that they're very rich, and the helicopter comes in and they're putting together this big party, and they're finding out who all the characters are. I thought that took a little bit longer, but some of the other scenes, I thought they added to character development, and they added to the sense of being part of their lives. It kind of drew me in a little bit. I would recommend, as you know, because I recommended the movie for this podcast, but I would recommend the movie to friends. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. As both of you said, it was long. I thought the beginning was the slowest part of it. That could have been like much shorter. But then I'm like thinking like, what would I cut out and stuff? And some of the silly things like with the peanut butter, or when he's like interrupting the board meeting and like, excuse me, can I have more of those delicious cookies? Like you can cut these like silly things out, but I also like enjoyed some of those little moments a lot. So yeah, I wish there was a way it was shorter. I feel like 2 hours, it would be an excellent movie. It was long. But I do recommend it.
All right, I do too, and I actually showed some scenes to my kids, especially the Jamaican accent ones, just so they could check that out.
That was so cringy.
It didn't seem like 3 hours. It was. I enjoyed it, and also I felt like the end was a little emotional. Like I had a little knot in my chest watching them.
Yeah, I like the last hour. I enjoyed the most because that's when things are finally coming together.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of kind of slow walking to get there,
Yeah.
I want to mention one more thing before we wrap this up. Meet Joe Black was one of the few films that was showing the first trailer for Star Wars episode.
Oh yeah, I read that.
So that had a lot of Star Wars fans buying tickets and then leaving after the trailer.
What?
And also, it earned a Razzie Award nomination for the worst remake.
The worst what?
Really?
Worst remake. You know what a Razzie is?
Yeah.
Okay. Worst remake.
Interesting.
Razzie nomination. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you joining us today, Frank. We really enjoyed it.
It's fun. It's pleasure.
Keep the movie suggestions coming because we have no idea what we're doing next week.
It'll be a surprise. No, we do. We did. We made a list. We said something.
Did we?
Yeah, it was something.
All right, we'll figure that out. Well, next week,
it'll be a surprise for everyone listening.
For everyone. Riley, Frank, Charlie, thank you guys so much for joining. We will see you next time on Rewind.
Thank you.
Podcast.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, before we go, Frank.
Yes.
Give us your best Jamaican accent. Let's go.
Oh, come on. I can't do that.
All right. See you guys. Take care.